we go. So my name is Sharon White, and I'm very delighted to partner with Dana Hunter and Gary Knapp each and every week to bring this training series to all of Australasia and across the globe. And we've been doing it for a long time now, benevolently, but also very selfishly. We gain so much from being here and being immersed in this spectacular education and opportunity for us to change our lives and the lives of others. Now, Dr. Steve Nugent is Mantech's Chief Science Officer and Chairman of the Global Scientific Advisory Board. He has more than 40 years experience in the area of integrative medicine. He has tested more than 6,000 dietary supplement products and formulated more than 100. He is internationally recognized as an expert in his field and has been teaching doctors for more than 30 years. He is Mantech's most requested speaker worldwide. He has earned multiple degrees, graduating with top honors at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. His areas of studies include, pay attention here, integrative medicine, health and wellness psychology, leadership psychology, organizational psychology, neuropsychology, biological anthropology, nutrition science, and business administration. Dr. Nugent has served as president of the International Association of Complementary Medicine, as president emeritus of the American Naturopathic Medical Association. He's a professional member of the American College of Nutrition, and he is also awarded the Servant's Heart Award by Mantech Associates in 2007. He's one of Australasia's favorites as he carries the heart for the health, well-being, and education of all he meets. Dr. Nugent is passionate about giving the power of wellness back into the hands of everyday people. That's you and I. And, Mantech's always been the science company. And this topic today, the nutritional glycans, is the very foundation of why that is. So, Dr. Nugent, I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you. It's been a while.
Yeah, and I'm always glad to be back to talk to all my friends in Australasia. And I think that for us to talk about glycans periodically, to reinforce for all of our existing associates the real importance of it, and for the new folks who tuned in, they say, oh, "What the heck's a glycan?" So it's time to talk about that and why they're so important. You'll find this presentation to be a little bit different than the glycan presentations you've seen before, because I can't help myself. I have to keep changing my presentations.
So, that's good for us.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. So yeah, I'm gonna do the share screen thing now, I think, except I'm not. That doesn't look like my stuff. It looks like I'm sharing somebody else's screen.
Ah, you've got co-host Dr. Nugent, so.
I wonder what's going on here. How strange. Sorry, folks, for this. I like to say that you can't have a live lecture unless something goes wrong technically, right?
Can you click on
there we
PowerPoint?
are.
There you are. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go off camera, Dr. Nugent, but I'm right here.
All righty. Okay, folks, so today we're going to talk about, oh, by the way, please, no criticisms on the picture. I didn't pick that picture, all right? That was done at a Korean event. The Koreans love that particular pose for some reason, so it cut me a little slack on that. So, all right. So what are we going to do this morning for Australasia? Well, this morning we're going to talk about what you see on the screen right now, the fundamentals of nutritional glycobiology versus glycobiology. And a lot of people don't even know that there are two fields of study in that, but you'll learn that this morning. A general discussion of the science. Obviously we can't go in depth, and I don't know if it's useful to really go in depth on this for everybody. We'll talk about safety, because that's super important to me always. Safety and efficacy have to be right at the top. And our efficacy, or I was asked recently by an American, what does efficacy mean? And I said, well, it means the effectiveness. How effective is something? And our double-blind, placebo-controlled human studies to show how effective our glycan products are. And we will talk about the differences between the ambertose products, We'll give you information about Ambrose Complex, Ambrose Life, advanced Ambrose. There are still a couple of countries using advanced Ambrose. Some of you may have people in those countries as part of your businesses who use that. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And Ambrose in individual products, such as Ambrose AO, which is definitely a misnamed product. Should have never been called Ambrose AO because it misleads everybody into thinking it's something that it's not. Well, we'll get to that. Well, let me just address it right now. So the AO stands for antioxidant. And the reason that the inventor of that particular formula decided to call it Ambrose AO is because 300 milligrams of the 500 milligram capsule is a special blend of Ambrose. And I always get people saying to me, which Ambrose is it? It's a special blend, which is only in that capsule and in no other product. Okay. And it's blended specifically to help the antioxidant be more effective. It really should be called AO, right? Just antioxidant, but it's not. So it's called Ambrose AO. It does not replace Ambrose. Obviously, if you do the math, if we're recommending 2 grams of Ambrose twice daily, and you have 300 milligrams of Ambrose in AO, then it probably is not an Ambrose replacement. Plus, again, it's not the same as either Ambrose Complex or Ambrose Life. It is its own unique formula. Well, you know, what I like people to think about when you say the word Manitech, and people will think all kinds of things, you know, it's like the psychological test where the psychologist says a word and then you respond with the first word that comes to your mind, right? Well, I like to think of 3 words: science, safety, and efficacy. Now, clearly, our safety program far exceeds what is required in any country on planet Earth. In fact, we have a multi-layered safety program. We do so much with safety and for safety that, quite frankly, when I get the question that I get essentially every time I do a live lecture, somebody will say, well, is this product safe? It's like, yeah, okay. Why would we make something that wasn't safe to begin with? I mean, that just really, you know, what kind of a question is that? But we go so far with safety, so far above and beyond, with additional layers of safety testing that aren't required by anyone and that aren't done by our competitors at all, that extra safety testing. Why do we do so much safety? Because we're good scientists. And we know that sometimes, not very often, but sometimes your traditional safety checks may not do the job. So we do multi-layers just to be sure. Does that cost more money to do that? Yes, it does. It does. But then we know for certain that there are no mistakes, that nothing fell through the cracks. So we're very, very proud of our multi-layered safety program. And of course, we're a science-based company. We have been from the very beginning with our state-of-the-art analytical chemistry lab. Now, a lot of people say, well, doesn't every company have a lab? Nope. And this is a simple common sense question. And I know that Australasians are big on common sense. So this is just common sense, right? Why in the world would you spend millions of equivalent US dollars, millions of US dollars to build a laboratory if you weren't required to have one? Well, the answer is you wouldn't do it, right? Well, at Manitech, we did it anyway, because we want to be sure that we are always the leaders in science, that we're at the cutting edge. We want to be sure that we have the ability to test anything. We can test any plant substance that you bring us, right down to one single molecule. That's good science. So science, safety, efficacy. Efficacy is proven out by our human double-blind placebo-controlled studies, which, by the way, is the gold standard of science, just in case you didn't know. And why do we do that? You know, other companies claim that they have science when in fact they have no studies on their own products at all. Now, what you'll see in almost every company is that they'll say, well, you know, our product has this scientifically proven or scientifically studied or scientifically validated, they may use any of those terms, ingredient in their product. Here's the problem. What we know about in terms of chemistry is if you take molecule A and molecule B and you test them separately, they will have their own individual function. But then if you take molecule A and B and you then combine them, you may now have an entirely different function. So it's always good to have scientific testing for an ingredient, but will that always tell you how your product will function unless you test the product itself? Well, that's expensive and it's time consuming. And most companies figure, you know what? They're going to do good marketing and make plenty of money, so why bother? And that's kind of the attitude. At Manatech, we like to test our products. Yeah, we do have a few products where we put in a clinically tested ingredient in it, sure. But our key products are tested individually as full, complete products. So we know what that product will do in a human being, not what an ingredient did by itself before we put it in the product. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Well, you may not know this, but Manatech is the only company in the entire world, the only company in this entire industry that can say they pioneered a new field of science. Now, that ought to make us the science company for sure, right? What science is that, you might ask? Well, you see it on the screen, of course, right now. It's called nutritional glycobiology. Is that like glycobiology, you might ask? Well, yeah and no. Glycobiology is sort of the huge umbrella over all things glycan. And it's a study of all glycans, and I'll explain glycans in a moment. Nutritional glycobiology is different. That's the study of the nutritional application of glycans for human health. So it's a different field. Maybe you'll look at it as a subfield, I suppose, but it is a separate field of science, and we at Manatech pioneered it. No other company can make a claim even close to that. And so glycans. Most Manatech associates worldwide have been using the word glyconutrient since, well, 1996. And that's because it's Manatech that coined the word glyconutrient. So it makes sense our associates would be using it. But now the whole planet is using the word glyconutrient. In fact, I've gone to science websites where they're using the word glyconutrient and they don't even know. This is hilarious to me as a scientist. These science websites don't even know that glyconutrients is talking about glycans. All right, so glycan is the scientific term. Glyconutrient is a commercial term that Manatech made up many years ago. Because we knew at that time that if we said glycan all those years ago, people would be confused. And I guess people still are sometimes. So what is a glycan? In nature, all plants, all animals for that matter, but all plants contain various different saccharides. And these saccharides, and saccharide is a fancy name for sugar. Now don't panic. It's not table sugar, okay? Now, table sugar is a saccharide, obviously. But we're talking about nutritional saccharides. Saccharides that are good for you, saccharides that are healthy for you, not table sugar. So don't get too confused. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of our associates and associate leaders over the years who would use the word sugar all the time, which of course, to the new person who doesn't have any idea what we're talking about to begin with, then they're saying, oh, sugar, that's bad for you. It makes you fat. It causes health challenges. And oh, no, we don't want that. Well, it's not that kind of sugar. Table sugar is a disaccharide. What we're talking about are things called monosaccharides, polysaccharides, and oligosaccharides. So going back to the Greek, so mono means one, and poly means many, and oligo means very many, all right? So an oligosaccharide is a very long chain saccharide. That's what we talk about when we're talking about glycans. So these are glycans that are in plants. They are plant saccharides. And why are they there, you might ask? It seems that glycans are essential for cellular communication, whether you're a plant or an animal or a person. You have to have these glycans for cellular communication. I'll show you a graphic on that in a minute, but it's much more fundamental than that. It's much more basic than you might imagine. So in science, we say glycan. Commercially, we say glyconutrient. But just so you know the difference and understand that disaccharides are not part of this mix, okay? We don't use table sugar, right? So don't worry about that. Now, I always get, because people don't know what glycans are most of the time, or glyconutrients for that matter, so I'll get people saying, well, you know, I haven't seen it on TV. I've never heard of it before. My doctor doesn't know what it means. And I do regular trainings, by the way, for medical doctors. So I can tell you right now that a huge percentage of medical doctors have no idea what I'm talking about until I give them this training. Why? Why would they learn about this? Medical doctors are taught about how to use pharmaceutical drugs, how to diagnose disease, how to use medical procedures and medical devices and do surgeries. They're not trained in nutrition, despite the fact that many of them like to put themselves out as nutritional experts. They are not trained in nutrition in medical school. Okay. All right. Well, let's backtrack a few moments. So, any science behind this? Yep. The science, actually, the first recorded science on glycans was in 1857. Wow. Now, okay, by modern standards, wasn't much of a scientific investigation, all right? But that's when it started. And if you follow the progress of study in the area of glycans, what you'll find is that it's been growing very slowly at first, and now it's almost growing exponentially, because the more we discover about how important glycans are to your health, the more scientists want to investigate. And then the more want to investigate, and the more the numbers are really getting up there now. So as an example, by 2010, there were about 23,000 studies already. And by the year 2010, almost nobody knew what a glycan was on the whole darn planet, even though there were nearly 23,000 studies. Now, some of you might think, well, how can that be? Well, you know, you'll see something on the TV news as an example, or maybe on your favorite internet site, where somebody will bring up some new news, I say that in air quotes, about something for your health, some new study. Generally, the talking head, who is not a scientist in almost every case, will misquote, misunderstand, and unintentionally misinform the public. I don't, you know, definitely unintentionally, I think. And then the public goes away thinking, oh gosh, every time there's a study, our favorite talking head on the news tells us about it. No, sorry, not the case. In fact, in the area of nutrition, there's around 250,000 pages of new scientific study published every year. Nobody can keep up with it. It's impossible. I mean, computers strain to keep up with it. So lots and lots of data out there. Well, fast forward from 2010 to 2019. And I remember one day I was just thinking, you know, let's do a search. And I found 362,000 hits for glycoproteins just on PubMed Central. And that is a major database for scientific studies, which, by the way, is free. So your doctor may not have heard of glycans, and that's okay. But this is something that everyone needs to learn about, which is why more and more I'm getting medical doctors coming to me saying, would you explain this stuff to me? I don't understand how this applies to my patient's health. Can it be beneficially applied to my patient's health? And very often they are very grateful for this information. Now, most people have heard of something called the Human Genome Study. And so everybody thinks they know what that means. And that's the study of all the genes in a human body. Well, there's also a human glycome study. Now, what does that mean? Well, that study was done to find out what the glycans in the human body are doing. Now, there is no possibility of being able to count the number of glycans at any given time in the human body because they are absolutely essential for cellular communication. Folks, every cell on your body, in order for it to talk to another cell, and it can't do its function unless it can communicate, it has to have a set of glycans, not one, but a whole set of them. So this human glycome study began in 2011. It is ongoing with scientists trying to understand what all the glycans do throughout the body. I suspect they're going to be at that study for a long time, but it's important for you to know that it exists. Glycans are so fundamental to human health and I might even say to human existence that the only difference in the blood type, so right now you're looking at a diagram of blood type O, A, and B. And the only difference are the glycans. So those little ellipticals that you see after each one, those are abbreviations of various glycans, which are necessary for cellular communication. And you see the difference in the blood type is the number and or the positioning of these glycans. That's what makes up the difference in human blood types. And you have to think, I mean, it's a humbling thought to me that these little glycans are so fundamentally important to our very existence as human beings. And I know of no nutrient other than glycans which are. We also know from an outfit called the National Academy of Sciences in the United States, which is made up of some of the very top scientists in America. These are brilliant, brilliant scientists, just amazingly, astoundingly brilliant people. When any of them walks into a room, the IQ of the entire room goes up 500%. These are some pretty smart people. They studied glycans for about 5 years, and then they published on it. And the document they published is, well, it's a little too complicated for most people to read and understand, but I have to tell you something. This document was astounding to me. I learned that, I've been working with glycans now for 26 years, more than 26 years. And I learned things about glycans that I didn't know. So it's amazing stuff. But one of the things that they told us in their study was, there's no function in the human body that does not involve glycans. Think about what I just said. There is no function in the human body that does not involve glycans. This, to me, means that glycans are the single most important nutrient in your entire body. Because literally, all of your cells and systems, as miraculous as they are, and they are miraculous, going back to the old saying, the more I learn, the less I know. The more I learn, the more humbled I am about how amazing the human body is, how astoundingly complex it is. And we keep learning more and more and more all the time. So these glycans they're just so amazing. Well, some of you have seen this graphic before. And for those of you who haven't, I'm going to go through the steps very briefly for you. So first, you're looking at a diagram of the surface of a cell, and no, all cells are not perfectly round. Okay, it's a diagram, right? I always get somebody who emails me and said, some cells are not round. Yeah, I know that. Okay, so on the surface of this cell, on this diagram, you have these, and I'm going to make this super simple. You have these sort of little squiggly things. Now, those are called cell surface receptor sites. They're really not receptors. They're really transceivers. They receive information and they send information. Now, this is important because this is how your body functions. Now, you'll notice on the diagram that there are a bunch of little beads, okay? Each of those little beads represents something called a glycoprotein. A glycoprotein is a glycan which has found a very specific, there's no accidents here, okay? very specific protein to a very specific glycan. They meet each other, they bond, they become a glycoprotein. That glycoprotein then becomes the bead that you're looking at on the cell surface receptor side. That bead then is doing the communication. Now, here's the key. Each of these beads, these glycoproteins, knows some of the letters of the cellular alphabet, but none of them seem to know all of the letters of the cellular alphabet. So imagine you trying to put together a sentence, or writing something or communicating something orally. If you only know some letters that make up words, in other words, you can't complete the words because you don't know all the letters of the alphabet. So what happens then is all these glycoproteins, each knowing their own set of letters, combines to form the words that form the sentences, that form the communication that tells one cell what to do with another cell. Let's say, as an example, that you want to improve your immune function. Now, if you're going to take, well, we'll do something common, some vitamin C. If you're going to swallow some vitamin C, first of all, you have to have a cell that recognizes that you swallowed vitamin C. That cell has to be able to communicate to the other cells what kind of an enzyme is necessary to transport the vitamin C. Or if it's in the form of a food, which enzymes are necessary to digest it so you can extract it from the food. Now you need a communication that says, well, this needs to go to this kind of immune cell. Okay, fine, communication. Then you need communications that talk about which immune cells are necessary to respond to which immune challenge. Everything is about communication. So too many people for too long, and I've been doing this for more than 40 years now. I started when I was 5. So hopefully somebody chuckled with that. So the point is, I've been doing this for more than 40 years, and most people think that a dietary supplement is kind of like a medicine. So you have a symptom, you take this supplement, and that takes care of your symptom. Well, that's not the way glycans work. Glycans are all about communication. Now, why is it that virtually every single study we've done has shown us positive results with glycans? It's not because glycans cure this and that and everything. It's because your body knows how to do that, but only when it has correct and accurate communication. And that's why every time we do a human study with glycans, we always get positive results, because it's helping the body do what it was designed to do. It's really that simple. So it doesn't matter what the function are, glycans are going to be it. I made a video for Manatech Associates based on one day I was trying to explain in a big group. And after I did that explanation, I thought, I like that. We'll make that into a video. So there's a video, and it's all about communication. And I use the example of mobile phones, or what Americans call cell phones. Okay. And I'm going to use the term cell phone for cellular communication, right? All right. So in order for a cell phone to communicate from one person to another, it has to send a signal to a cell phone tower. If we go backwards on this and look at this, you might think about those cell surface receptor sites, those squiggly things with the beads on it. All right. Think about each of those as a cell phone tower. Think about the fact that that tower has to be constructed a particular way, or you will not have proper communication from one cell phone to another cell phone. That's basically the way it works in your body. And that video is available in the Manatech library. It's free. And I invite you to use that to explain this to people. So what do we know about scientific study in terms of our glycan technologies? And folks, I would like you to think about Ambritos as technologies, plural. In fact, recently I've been saying in all of my talks, I've been referring to Ambritos technologies versus specifically saying Ambritos complex, Ambritos life, advanced Ambritos, the Ambritos in AO, the Ambritos in this, the Ambritos in that, but rather to just say Ambritos technologies. So we're completely covered all the time. Well, the majority of our studies, of course, have been on Ambritos complex. It was our original formula. It is the one that I personally use every day, by the way. That's the one that my body likes best. So that's the one that I use. And you will make your own choice. However you want to make your own choice, that's great. And I'm going to show you the differences and similarities between the ambrottoses in a few moments. So don't get too far ahead of me. I want you to stay with this part right now. What do we know about scientific study? Well, we know for sure that when you ingest our ambrottose technologies orally, that you will have cellular communication. We know this, it's proven in scientific study, and that's foundational. Number two, we've done 7 brain studies. Now it's hilarious to me. Some of these companies that, they've got this fantastic product, that fantastic product, and they make all kinds of amazing claims, and they've got beautiful websites and amazing marketing, and people buy this stuff having no idea what they're actually buying, except, man, I was sold on this, right? Well, what do we know? We know that unlike some of the companies that are selling so-called brain support products who have no studies on their own products, so they will have an ingredient that they've added to their product, which was studied by somebody else, but their own product's never been studied. So we don't know what that does. And remember what I talked to you about combining substances. Sometimes the reaction is different than expected, and you don't know that until you do a test. So we've done 7 brain studies. We know that ambrottose technologies improve cognitive function, your thought process. We know it improves memory function. We know it improves concentration and attentiveness, that it can improve your mood. It can be an uplifting experience in terms of your psychology. I think that's really important too. And of course, that would help to decrease your irritability. And we actually tested that specifically, by the way, through neuropsychologists. There's specific types of testing that you do for that. Now, most people who come to Manatech are looking for something for their immune system. I wish that our associates would learn everything that you're watching right now and begin to talk to people who don't have immune challenges, but they have brains. We have to make sure their brains are functioning at optimal level. They want their memories to function at optimal level. So there are so many things that the ambrottose technologies do, so many things above and beyond immune function. Still, I know most people will come for immune function. And do we know that ambrottose technologies support immune function? Of course we do, by scientific study. And we even know that ambrottose technologies support a healthy gut and digestive function. The ambrottose glycans are prebiotics. A prebiotic is a food that feeds the probiotic. And the better your probiotics are fed, just like human beings, the better you feed a human being, the healthier they are. The better you feed a probiotic, the healthier they are. So we know in that area, we know that that's helping our probiotic colonies and our intestinal health in that respect. And you can start to connect the dots on all that stuff. We know that approximately 70% of all immune function originates in the gut through that reaction. There's a lot of things we know. In fact, I will probably repeat this later because I think it's very noteworthy. We know from scientific study that our Manipul glycan product, which I'll address in a few moments, that can actually increase the absorption of vitamin A and vitamin C, vitamin E. That's pretty cool too. So all these things we know from scientific study, not that we've added an ingredient to it that was studied by somebody else, but an actual human study on our products, our complete final products as you would buy them. So cellular communication, definitely the key, and definitely the key in all of the areas. Early in Manatech history, back in 1996, and keep in mind that, and this is not a knock on marketing people. God love them. We need them. You need to have a team of people. You need a science team and a marketing team and a sales team. You need teams, right? and each of us having our own area of expertise. Well, marketing people know that people love short, catchy things, right? That's what helps you to remember and helps you to say it to others. So when Harper's Biochemistry, which is a medical biochemistry textbook used in many medical and nursing schools in different countries, when that came out and identified 8 different glycans which were necessary for cellular communication, then we went from our original product, which was Manipol in a capsule, and it was called, that product was then called Manaloe, was the name of that product, or aloe, if you wish, but it was Manaloe, that's the way we pronounced it. So that was our original glycan product. Then we went to the complex, which we named Ambrotose, and the inventor of that formula said that he got that from thinking about the Greek pantheon of gods who drank ambrosia to have eternal life. So that's where Ambrotose comes from, just in case you wanted to know. So that story then started there. There are 8 glyconutrients, the associates would say, that are for cellular communication. And everybody would want to name the 8 from Harper's Biochemistry. And we had little children learning the 8, and everybody was excited. And up until about a week ago, well, maybe 2 weeks ago, when I had a conversation with our associate number 1, he still thought it was 8. And he's the number 1 associate in the entire world, right? Well, actually, the Ambrotose technologies don't contain 8, they contain 11. And this is nothing new. It's not a change in the formula. So please don't anybody go crazy on me and start emailing about, why did you change the formula? We didn't change it, okay? The original Ambrotose complex had 11. The current Ambrotose complex has 11. The Ambrotose Life has 11, okay? So it's always been that way. So you're looking at it. This has been on the screen long enough so you can see them, and you know that. Why this particular combination? Because there are certain glycans that don't do well with stomach acid. So by taking these other glycans and combining them, we know that when they combine, they form, when the molecules combine, it makes a different glycan. And that's what we wanted out of this. So that's why you have that mix and not the mix that some of you have been reciting for the last 26 years. So then, Manipol is where it all began. That was the first glycan. In fact, the discovery of, let me backtrack for a second, because I want you to note something. Lots of people think, and I'm sorry that our Manitech website makes it look that way, to everybody on the planet who takes a look at us, the first thing they say is, oh, you're an aloe company. No, aloe has one ingredient of 11 ingredients in Ambrotose Technologies is from aloe, 1. The other 10 are not. We're not an aloe company, okay? That's what everybody thinks. That's a story everybody's been telling for 26 years, and that's not who we are, okay? Now, prior to Ambrotose complex being invented, we had an aloe product. It's called Manipol, and that's what we're about to talk about just now. All right, so Manipol was the beginning of it all. Manipol comes from the gel of the inner leaf of the aloe plant. Different countries have different rules about how you have to label things. And so when we go from one country to another, I often have associates saying, why is the formula different in this country than it is in that country? And in most cases, the formula is not different at all, but the label has to appear different because of the regulations in that country. So in many countries, what you'll see on the label is you will see the words aloe vera inner leaf gel powder. Now that can mean anything from aloe. I would like to be specific and say, this is Manipol, but you have to say it that way in a lot of countries on the label, just so you understand, okay? So we grow this in Costa Rica. And why is this important? Costa Rica has just about the most perfect temperature, sunlight, rainfall, and volcanic soil, because you get more robust levels of mannose from aloe if it's grown in volcanic soil versus regular soil because of the very high mineral content. So we do that. And they analyze, they have a growing, our grower has a program where they've been using DNA analysis for years to compare what are called the pups. So a baby aloe plant is called a pup, okay? And they compare the pups to see, is this one of the better strains? Is this one of the weaker strains? And they keep crossbreeding the stronger strains, and we keep getting stronger and stronger aloe as we're breeding them, and no one else on the planet is doing this. So I think that's pretty unique as well. We also, it is known from third-party testing that we have the highest polysaccharide content of any aloe in the world. That's important because it's the polysaccharides and the monosaccharides and the oligosaccharides that are doing everything for your health. The rest of the gel is just stuff. It's not active. It's not the thing in aloe that does what everyone knows aloe does, right? And what our grower does after extracting just what we call manipole, that's our trade name for it, so we own that. And when they extract this very specific mannose using a very specific way of extraction that no one else on the planet except Manitech does. So anybody that says to me, our aloe is the same as Manitech's aloe, not even close, not even close. And we are third-party tested in terms of clinical trials for safety and efficacy. And our competitors can't say that either. We have the highest level of mannose from aloe, which is called ace mannan, standardized of any aloe in the world. That's how good we are at what we do. And we know, as I mentioned before, that this manipole, this aloe, which manipole contains primarily mannose, but it also has 5 other glycans, which are molecules also found in the gel that are attached to the mannose, okay? So we know that we've got support for cellular communication just with the manipole. We know that it improves the absorption of vitamin C and vitamin E. How cool is that? And of course, helps the GI tract because probiotic bacteria loves to consume manipole. They love it. It's like gourmet food for them, okay? So we have the highest stabilized aloe in the world. Nobody can compare with us. We know what this does. There's just no question about it. And we are sourcing this from an environmentally sound method. Our grower uses either solar energy or wind energy. They are not using any form of energy which creates a carbon footprint. This is important for a couple of reasons. It's important for the environment. That's very important to me, by the way. Personally, as any of you have read my book, Toxic Planet, from back in 2004. But it's also important to the aloe plants because aloe plants absorb pollution. And the more pollution you have in the air where you're growing the plants, you don't want to grow a plant where there's a lot of air pollution. You don't want to do it because the aloe will suck up the pollutant and then you can't get it out. You don't have any way to separate it, to purify it. So we're giving you pure manipole, pure mannose from aloe, which is scientifically called ace mannan. And again, we have the highest molecular weight. Oh, those pictures look so great. You just want to eat that stuff. It looks so good. So true ace mannan has a molecular weight measured in something called Daltons, and that is between 1 and 2 million Daltons, whereas ordinary aloe measures anywhere between 200,000 for the real cheap, low-grade stuff, all the way up to perhaps 400,000 Daltons. So there's a big difference. And by the way, we are getting so good at this now. In the beginning, we were just over 1 million Daltons, but now we are routinely coming in at more than 2 million Daltons all the time. And we know certain things about the weight, the molecular weight. We know, as an example, in terms of detox, you always have better detoxification the higher the molecular weight is. We know this. There are other things that we know as well. So it is important to note that structure is key to function. When you change the molecular weight, you now have affected the structure of it as well, which affects the function. So most of you won't remember this, and you don't have to remember this, but I just want to show you that what you're looking at is the molecular formula for our ace mannan, our mannose from aloe, and lots of companies claim they have ace mannan and they don't, all right? But what you see is the formula for our product on the first line, and then for regular mannose from aloe, just any of our competitors on the second line. Clearly, they're not the same. So the other companies say we're just as good as Manatech, we're just the same as Manatech. No, you're not. And what I always say to them, especially if I'm in an open forum, is, hey, I'm a scientist. Show me scientific proof, I'll accept it. Guess what they never show me? Scientific proof, because they don't have it. All right, so why is Manipul expensive? And why is Ambertose expensive, but Manipul in particular? Remember, when you buy a container of Manipul, you're buying pure. It is a pure ace mannan. It takes 660 kilos of aloe leaf to make 1 kilo of Manipul powder. Imagine, that's like an entire truckload stacked, almost like a pyramid of aloe leaves, just stacked with aloe leaves, 660 kilos to make 1 kilo. So it's very pure stuff. And by the way, as you're looking at the picture right now with the slices of the aloe vera leaf, if you can see, there's just a slight lightness on the inner coating of that outer leaf coating, but just slight on the inner. That's called aloe latex. Now we hand fillet all of our aloe because we want to make sure that nothing gets in the mix except the aloe gel. Our competitors use machines to separate it, which often gets the aloe latex into their aloe product as well. Just wanted to point that out. All right, so here you have Ambertose Life, Ambertose Complex, and Advanced Ambertose. What are the differences? What are the similarities? Understand that all Ambertose products, all three, are foundationally Ambertose Complex. All of them are Ambertose Complex with something added, just so you understand. So I use Complex every day myself. I've tried all of our technologies. We've had other advanced Ambertose technologies, by the way, that some of you may not even know about because they didn't last very long. If we don't get good results, then products just not going to stay. But my body likes Ambertose Complex best. That's what it likes, it always has, and so that's the one I use. But Ambertose Life and Advanced Ambertose are a base, a foundation of Complex that we add things to it. So all three of them are the 11 glycan base formula. All three. There's no difference there. Then on top of that, you look at the Manipul. All right. So there's always been 200 milligrams per serving of Manipul in Complex. When we came out with Life, our chief marketing officer at the time, he said, we need to make Life better, so we should put more Manipul in it. And we put 205 milligrams versus 200 milligrams. It's pretty darn close to the same, obviously, but just so you know that. Advanced Ambertose never had more than 95 milligrams of Manipul, and the first few years of Advanced Ambertose had no Manipul at all. And that's because there was a Manipul shortage, and we were struggling just to keep enough Manipul in Ambertose Complex at that time. Well, we changed growers, and this new grower is so expert, they're so amazing at growing that they can produce so much Manipul that it's just not an issue anymore. And in fact, it was because of us switching to that grower from our original grower that we could add Manipul to Advanced Ambertose at all. But as I mentioned, Advanced Ambertose is being phased out all over the planet, and we are going to have Ambertose Complex and Ambertose Life as the two remaining, which will be a choice for you, which one you want to take. It's up to you. AmbroGuard is our trade name for a premium form of arabinogalactan. Now, arabinogalactan is a set of glyconutrients that are extracted from the Western larch tree, which grows in North America. There's only one company that makes arabinogalactan. There are many companies that say, our arabinogalactan is better than their arabinogalactan. And the problem is they're all buying them from the same company. All right, so it's just marketing. But we have an exclusive agreement from that one company to buy a form of arabinogalactan that they will not sell to anyone else on the planet. And we have trade named that as Ambrogard. And we're very proud of that. And Manipul and Ambrogard, those two things together, those two things are the two most amazing immunomodulators I've seen in my more than 40-year career. And I have tested thousands of products, and I have seen all kinds of things when I was in practice. I have never seen anything better than Manipul and Ambrogard for immune modulation. Some of you now are saying, what does that mean? Well, immune stimulation, let's say that my left hand represents normal immune function. Hopefully this is showing up on the screen. And my right hand then would be changes in immune function, okay? This is normal, healthy. So low immune function, you need to modulate up to normal. If your immune system is overactive, you need to modulate down to normal. If you use an immune stimulant, you're just always going up. If you use an immune suppressant, you're always going down. But if you use an immune modulator, now an immune modulator can get you where you're supposed to be at healthy, normal immune function. That's why I like immune modulation versus immune stimulation, okay? Because there are a lot of people that have overactive immune systems. You don't want to stimulate them, you want to modulate them, okay? All right. Then we have fucoidins from wakame. And fucoidins, that's a different way of saying fucose. There is fucose in all three formulas from the same plant sources that are exactly the same from the original ambrotose complex. Then in two of the products, Life and Advanced, we added additional fucoidins from a type of seaweed called wakame, which by the way is grown in the Tasman Sea and is produced in Australia. Well, it's produced on the island of Tasmania, to be specific, okay? So it's pretty amazing stuff, those fucoidins. Life is in a base of stabilized rice bran, and the other two are in a base of rice starch, which is inert, it's non-functional. But we need to have a base to put everything together so we can get it flowing and mixing properly. Remember, you've got a mix of glycans in there, and you want to make sure that everything is coming out right all the time in the proper ratios, proportions, etc. We have plant source glucosamine in all three. No difference. It's identical. It comes from exactly the same source. We have modified citrus pectin, which is good for helping your body detoxify chemicals. That's found in Life and not in the other two products. Sodium alginate is not table salt. I always get somebody that says, I can't have sodium. Well, sodium is, it's a term used in chemistry to describe the form of a molecule more than anything else. So there's no table salt. Don't worry about it, all right? Sodium alginate comes from a type of algae, and this is a type, well, I'll give you more information on that. Let me finish this part first. So the sodium alginate helps to detoxify metals, and that's why that's in there. All three formulas are vegan friendly. All three formulas are kosher. And so, and there you are. We can fast forward through some of this. I've already talked about arabinogalactan. Now, is the formula protected? Yes, because more than 50% of the entire container is made of our two exclusive ingredients that you can't buy anywhere except Manitech, Manipul, Ambrogard, okay? So patents or no patents, it cannot be duplicated. And by the way, when people try and duplicate us, they go to Harper's Biochemistry, they look at the 8 and they try and make a formula like that. And as you've already learned, that's not our formula, okay? Because we're running short of time, I won't spend a lot of time on stabilized rice bran other than to say the part of the rice that's nutritional is that little fine brown line between the rice kernel and the hull. You can't digest the hull, and that brown fine line of bran will it will it will degenerate very rapidly when exposed to oxygen. So it is now stabilized using enzymes, and it contains a lot of nutrients, more than 100 of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and so on. Now they're in very, very tiny amounts, but it still helps the overall nutritional content of the formula. Okay, and you see a little bit more there. The modified citrus pectin, of course, how do we get that? If you were to take that orange that you're looking at right now and you take the peel off and you look at the peel in a very bright light, you'll see there are strands of what look like fiber going across the inside of the peel. If you open up those strands, inside of them will be long chain glycans, which are called citrus pectins. And these long chain glycans, of course, by opening the fiber up, you have now modified that fiber, and that's why it's called modified citrus pectin. And again, that helps to pick up chemicals. So here's a look at what the source of the sodium alginate is. It's a type of algae, and it's also referred to as alginic acid or alginate. It can be called various things, but it comes from brown algae. It's actually extracted from it. And why is this important stuff? It's important because the molecular charge, everything has a molecular charge, everything that's alive, okay, has a energy charge, an electrical charge. So the metals that are bad for you have one charge, and the algin or alginate or alginic acid has an opposite charge. So it's like playing with magnets. If you've done that as a kid, if you take the like poles of a magnet and you try and push them together, they repel. But when you take the opposite pole of the magnet, boy, they stick together. So this is so simple, using the simplest form of biochemistry here. So you simply take a molecule that has the opposite charge of a heavy metal and you swallow it, and that helps to attract heavy metals. It's that simple, okay? And there's no table salt in this, right? So don't email me on that, all right? So just to reinforce again all the studies, the cellular communication, brain function, memory function, mood, immune function, digestive function, all of these functions from the Ambertose technologies. It's amazing stuff. So what you have with our glycan technologies, I'm going to stop the share here. So what you have with our glycan technologies is something that cannot be found anywhere else at any other company, not at any price. And it is so fundamental to your health that I don't care who you are, where you live, how you eat, what your state of health is. You should be taking one of our Ambertose technologies. You make the choice which one you want to take, and you should be taking it every day. And some of you, especially if you have rather serious challenges, you may want to add Manipul to that as well. Manipul is like bringing in, and excuse me, I served as a U.S. Marine, and it's stuck in my head, and it'll never come out of my head. So for good or bad, it's just there. So I think about bringing in the big guns, bringing in the heavy artillery. I mean, if you really want to go after that challenge, there's Manipul and Ambertose technologies already, but if you really want to go after that challenge, bring in some Manipul, some pure Manipul, the heavy guns, to really go after that bad guy that you're trying to go after, okay? So that's a primer on Manitech's glycan technologies. And I hope it's been enlightening for all of you. I hope that all of you, even associates who've been around for a long time, I hope you've learned some new information. And I hope, oh gosh, I hope that you'll take this information and start telling other people. Folks, for me, it's like, imagine that you're in a community of starving people and you're the only person who knows where the food is stored. Isn't it your responsibility to tell the community where the food is rather than let them starve? I think it is. Well, here's the food, folks. And people are starving for these glycans. And I want you to understand this. The old, outdated glucose-only theory which is still, by the way, taught in medical schools today, even though it's definitely outdated and it's been disproven. Doctors don't know it's been disproven because they're taught it and they believe it's true. You're supposed to believe stuff that your professors teach you, right? You're supposed to believe the curriculum. And the idea is, as long as you have blood sugar, that your blood sugar will always convert to all of the glycans you need. And that's been disproven. There are at least 13 different health disorders that have been studied where individuals, the key with their problem is that they are unable to convert the other glycans from glucose for a variety of reasons. And they are also unable to convert these glycans from food. And we know from a fairly recent study that the modern human diet is only providing us with 2 of those 8 necessary glycans, only 2, that are in abundant quantities for almost anyone on the planet who's not starving, obviously. But the other 6, not so much. Now it's hit and miss. Are you getting the other 6? Well, folks, you can't afford not to get the other 6. So take the Ambertose technologies, make your choice. Life complex, make the choice, but take these technologies, do it every day. It's foundational to virtually anything else you want to do. So that's all I have. I'll just give this back to you, Sharon.
Dr. Nugent, if you had time to read all the chat and the gratitude that's there, it's overwhelming. One final question. Do you happen to know if the vegan complex has reached everywhere globally yet?
Yes, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure yes.
All right, we'll follow that up. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, next week we have Ray Robbins. So it's a business focused, a business that changes lives is what we're talking about. And there's no one better than Ray Robbins to help us with that. One amazing, passionate gentleman. So Dr. Nugent, God bless you. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. Bye.